Welcome back to the beloved YouTube video series of my channel of Deep Dev Dive, where I present to you some of the modding work I've been doing in Fallout 4 for various projects. Today I will present to you somewhat of a crossover between Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4, a casino. Now, unfortunately, I was already done with this video before my local disc decided after 10 years of service to leave me. Just like my dad. And then I was working on it again, restarting from the start so that my motherboard behaved like my real mother, abandoning me too. Anyway, let's jump straight into the water, or into the whiskey rather, for the high stakes casino for Concord Stories. First and foremost, it is worth mentioning that this is merely a contribution to a bigger mod, and I hence didn't have as much freedom in my manifestation of creativity as my other projects. Concord Stories is a Fallout 4 mod that focuses on bringing the Commonwealth alive with the Sim Settlements 2 repopulation system, which uses pre-existing houses in the world map that the player couldn't enter before and place new interiors into them to discover. NPCs, shops, stories, quests, and more. I recommend staying tuned on ConcordStories.com. So I already had delivered a lot of Concord Stories cells. 2024 was mostly dedicated to that project. I think we're talking about 12 cells so far? That's like one cell a month. Anyway, what Concord Stories didn't have thereupon was a main story. I casually mentioned my beloved idea of a Fallout in Chicago that would involve gangsters and spies like in classical 50s, 60s movies, and the team leader Green Foxel and I both agreed that the Triggermen in Fallout 4 do pose a lot of potential in that, and we could feast on that idea. As I've been having the idea to build a casino for Good Neighbor for a long while, it seemed like a serendipity to happen. Originally, the draft was merely a casino where faulty dealer bots are scamming the people, but it would be way more vile as a story to have the casino owners forcing real people to work ad nauseam. Now, usually when I start a project, there's way more prep work beforehand. That was a bit different this time with the casino because of our regular Twitch streams, and I just finished something early beforehand and had no new project thereupon. But then design rarely goes linear anyway, we will just pretend as if it was. It's not a bug, it's a feature. So let's get to the drawing board and plan this through thoroughly. The motivation of a player is vital in designing a good story or quest. Ubisoft always goes for revenge, Rockstar goes for poor people's desperation of making money quickly, Bethesda goes for lost and found. If we look at the world, there always has been one topic that has been debated the hottest: climate change. Thin ice. Inequality. Socially, economically, politically, very matching to the idea of a casino that is led by Triggermen exploiting the workers rather than using machines, and the few machines that do exist being deliberately manipulated to make customers poor. Two very fast and easy ways to make money: rich people's fear of loss, poor people's desperation for wealth. And I'm the sole artist in a business family, so believe me, I can tell you lots of stuff about that. And you can only participate if you use your real time and labor to buy something virtual for it, or otherwise physically useless that artificially splitted up in pricing and can be just as artificially devalued at any given time when applicable, so the owners stay rich and their customers stay poor. And so the ones contributing to that machinery with their own labor are those who face the toughest challenge, as leaving this rat race would mean they not only have no means of basic survival at all anymore, but also the designers of the system seeing it as treachery and going after them and their families with scammy new deals, threats, or blackmail. And with that, we can start the storyboard already. We have the workers of the casino, their faces tired, their nerves at the edge, getting pushed around by other NPCs. The guests not caring, too busy with their own nerves of losing so much money. The interactions with the player revealing the injustice, merely one able to fully speak up and having an idea out of that misery effectively, who therefore acts as the quest giver in the first place. But what would the way out of that misery be? Well, as somebody who grew up in a cult, I can tell you, unfortunately from personal experience, that there is no easy way out with toxic people and criminal organizations. It's like playing chess with a pigeon. It will knock over all the figurines, poop on the board, and strut around as if it has won. The only way to win a toxic game is to not play. From that experience, I can tell you that trying to live the honorable way while remaining friends with everybody will only make it harder for yourself and drive you towards insanity and temporarily transform you into a being you will not be able to recognize anymore. So the quest giver is just as oblivious to think the easy way out is to see competition in the gambling industry of the Commonwealth, which therefore animates the player to make use of Sim Settlements 2 and maybe additional casino plots we're delivering with Concord Stories, as it relies on Sim Settlements 2. The quest giver offers in return to work for the player in such casino, which then gets attacked and shut down by triggermen, revealing that competing against them and re-establishing justice will not be an easy task. Now the player is facing that the operation is bigger than expected, that this cannot be a coincidence, and starts investigating further to find that the owner of the casino is the boss of the triggermen, a true mafia of the wasteland. And so the player now has a reason to investigate all the interior cells we deliver with Concord Stories in the hopes to find out more about the Triggerman Mafia and the operation and how to bring down the boss and liberate the wasteland of crime. So seizing storage houses, doing some favors for people to give them hope, taking out Triggerman, leading up to the big move of chopping the head off the Hydra once and for all with befriending casino workers to rob the casino vault. So we just took Lost and Found of Bethesda combined with Revenge of Ubisoft and poor people's desperation for making money fast from Rockstar.
Who will not hang up the phone until their client either buys or fucking dies!
Alright, so we want to build a casino in Fallout 4 with trying to stick to the assets of the game as much as possible. Because not only is Concord Stories already big enough, we also want to save on work hours in the 3D modeling, the 2D texturing and the performance optimization department. Unless it is something we will reuse in other cells or make it buildable for the player in the settlements, there is no need for it. So the paramount key points in building a cell are of course the vital requirements to make the story work. First, slot machines and gambling tables. They don't have to be usable, they're just necessary to make the level itself work immersively so the player knows immediately what they just entered. Would be odd otherwise to have a casino without them. The Vault Workshop DLC of Bethesda for Fallout 4 has Vault-Tec slot machines I was able to reuse in the casino. But also, to my luck, Sim Settlements 2 provides 2 new slot machine models. With a little bit of work of copying the Vault Workshop DLC's animation over and resizing them, I was able to convert them into actual usable slot machines. We also have been talking behind the scenes in the team how to make a script that would involve money so the player could actually gamble in the casino, but it's too early to make a statement on the availability of that feature yet. For gambling tables, I decided to go for something I once did before in Fallout 76 before we got the Atlantic City update, and that is utilizing a pool table, using its holes as cup holders. Yeah, that was a very unfortunate wording. I thought at first to use the half-circle table to reutilize it into a blackjack table, but the texture was just extremely weird and low-res, and a nice size foot was displaying that even more horribly so, and the legs peeked through the ground into the lower level. This is then where I decided to proceed with the pool table again and work it out with Texas Hold'em as its humble opinion the easiest one to work out without having to add too many other assets. After encouragement of the team lead Green Voxel, I also made a new diffuse map texture for the pool table as a material swap to make it even more clear what the object is supposed to be. This is where you can already see why it's so complicated narrating the design process step by step, as it's just never linear. You jump back and forth between tasks as we just jumped from level design to 2D texture design right now. You can imagine the fun to dissect 8 Twitch live streams for the key points and everything. But speaking of 2D textures, do you know why casinos tend to use very complex floor patterns? It's to obstruct your view and put your attention towards the slot machines. To replicate that without having to import new textures, I chose the hotel carpet floor texture from the high-tech kit to implement that for additional casino feels. Further asset creation had to be done with the casino chips, as we mentioned already in the story building that this should be part of it. I looked at various items of similar shapes, so the Subway token, the Boston Library tokens, and the Nuka-Cola medallions. The only one with a texture resolution that was worth the work with was the latter. My goodness, what a horrible tongue twist of a sentence. So I created the casino chips off-screen. Another pivotal asset, of course, is playing cards that would be scattered around the gambling tables. As we have plenty of cells where these could be reused for, even outside of this particular story, it was obvious it had to be done. At first there was the idea to make them collectible trading cards with unique images on them, so like the Mo Cronin baseball card or the Silver Shroud card, but you know, that would kinda low-key demand to be actually collectible for the player and a lot more 2D texture work. I used the high poly magazine models as the base object before the Twitch chat kept cajoling me to use the Silver Shroud card as the base, which then turned out in the end to be a massive waste of time as I couldn't do proper material swaps for some weird reason, and the measurement was weird, and all kinds of things went wrong. Yes, not all ideas people come up with shall be considered. And don't you get me wrong, I love good ideas, and once in a while I also take ideas and work in suggestions, just in this case, it just didn't work. But anyway, I stepped down from that idea ultimately and stuck to generic playing cards, but with a little twist. We made the cards very Fallout with new playing card suits. Reds, like the radiation warning sign, the atoms you've just seen earlier in the video how I crafted the symbol of it in GIMP, diamonds, as in the Diamond City diamonds in this case, and finally the bombs, or the nukes, however you want to call them. I even went down and made one picture card of the King of Atom being Confessor Tactus from Far Harbor, which was a fun idea of Yulia from the Twitch chat. I could now of course be just as snarky and be like, see, I do take suggestions on occasion, when they are actually good. I hence proceeded to use just enough textures for cards that would be varying enough within the cell, and yet not too many that would increase the mod size to an irresponsible degree, before I worked on other assets that weren't vital, but good to have. We will come to back them later, as we are trying here to keep the video linear for the narration purposes. Second, employees. We need sufficient spots in the level where NPCs are having interactions of harassment to make the story work and immerse the player into the world building of the ugliness of this establishment. It was a pleasant surprise that I got told the building could merely have one entrance, while the building I modeled the interior after has 2 doors on the outside. It has to do with the coding and scripting of the world repop feature of SimSettlements 2 apparently, so it's outside of my area of responsibility and knowledge. But that meant that I had to block off one door in the interior, which was great to have an extra space for an NPC to work on a slot machine and people being around them for before mentioned interactions. Another good one would be the already provided gambling table, where you can implement an interaction for the player to follow between the dealer and the guests. But then we also need to plan the quest NPC space, which I decided to be under the staircase, where it's a bit more secluded and hence more of a secretive atmosphere to match the vibes. Third, story-related locations and key moments. With that I'm referring to spots the player has to go to for the quest within this very cell. These would be the exchange booth where the player experiences the exchange that happens between bottle caps and casino chips. Another important one is the NPC interactions we just mentioned, and we already know. The third one, obviously, the casino vault. For the exchange booth, I used the wooden Art Deco counters as they look a bit more posh and therefore match more to the overall environment I aimed for. With some jail bars that rounded up the image and some jail doors that are hidden partially in the ceiling to leave a little gap on the counter to exchange the money. It unfortunately only came with a tiny issue that I was no longer able to interact with the cashier on the other side anymore because the jail doors, unlike the vaults, have no complex collision, and hence Captain Ultima of the 3D team of Concord Stories made a pressified collision version we could reuse in various cells. The next mission then, of course, is the casino vault that requires an ante-room, a security room, and the vault itself, and I decided early on that this should be in an own cell the player gets transported into with an elevator that loads between levels. A classical element of Fallout 4 and Portal 2. Feel free to let me know in the comments what other games you know that did that. For the Vault Room, I decided quest-wise that it's purposefully divided into several chambers with various valuable items the player has to loot in the casino heist. So I made piles of gold bars, trade cards with the casino chips. Yeah, alright, it was to be expected. It may not be particularly advisable to use the single chips and transform them into these towers. That is a lot for both the engine and the end-user PC, so I passed the task over to the 3D department as they are way more handy with 3D modeling than me. Maybe using a pipe and retexturing it or something like that would do. But then we also have the nemesis of Fallout modding. Excuse me, citizen, do you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior pre-combines? We could turn the casino chip trays into pre-combines. These are, simplified speaking, combined meshes that share a new LOD, a level of detail, for rendering the object in numerous steps over a distance. A good example for pre-combined objects are the intact houses and sanctuary hills. Single objects in the creation engine do have that LOD fine-tuned to itself already by default, but when you want to save performance and turn them into a new object, you will not get around adding an own LOD. If we would make it a skull, a static collection, it would suddenly just plop into the world as they have no LODs. And as single items, we do have exactly the issue that we are facing right now. The only problem with pre-combines is that if you touch them later too excessively, it may cause crashes or corrupt save files. So, when the player loots these chips, we can just create an object layer in the level and hook it up with an enable-disable marker and script it that this layer of the casino chips is merely no longer visible rather than disable the object itself and hence break the pre-combine we're about to make. Of course, editing anything in the aftermath will be hard, so we will wait a little before committing to that step. We will not have it in the video, but with this act we can optimize our custom assets way better and save lots of tanky performance. For now, my PC is strong enough to handle it, and we can continue our building progress with the cap stashes in the casino vault and the pre-war money storage as well. The idea is that the player has to loot all these piles one by one to really make it seem like a physical task. Maybe we are able to add a timer as well. I cannot remember having seen such feature before Fallout 76, but that could amp up the heat a little. Alright, now where the most basic required necessities are present in the cell, we can build other stuff around it. So more objects that manifest what the cell actually is, but are not super highly required. Now, into the subject of decoration in this case would fall cluttering and environmental storytelling for me. The bar is a great example. It is not super high necessity for anything that has to do with this cell particularly, but is nice to have for further manifestation of what this establishment actually is. And here's a great example again of design not being linear. You would think that we are past placing bigger objects, but as we just clearly set up before, the story-related scenes were higher on the priority list. So going back and forth between tasks, no matter how you go, will never be avoidable. It hence requires a lot of thought, documentation, and conversation with the team. In addition, it is worth mentioning that creativity rarely goes by organized work hours. This is one common misconception I encounter daily. Some days you are overflowing with ideas, and if you don't further feast on that energy, you may end up losing it when you need it for the specific thing you're working on. In other words, it is also unavoidable to work on something basic without adding decoration clutter and end up with additional environmental storytelling right away at times. For example, during the casino building live streams on Twitch, I had a modder unrelated to the project who's more into scripting criticizing my way of building shelves and directly putting bottles in, rather than finishing all the other rough stuff first. But the problem is that if I build these shelves, they should also have the right size before I end up with bottles that may not fit. This is why design is a little different in terms of organization. Also, sometimes you have to see the level building a little like Lego building. You have your box of bricks in the object window and throw them onto your work mat blotter in the render window to reuse them at a later time. Everybody has their own way of getting the job done, and as long as it doesn't block the progress of your colleagues too badly, I also see no problem in that. Imagine you work as a cashier in a supermarket and somebody from the storage comes around and criticizes that you turn the items from right to left for scanning the code, then from left to right. Yeah, like, no matter what you do it wrong, obviously. Alright, but back to the decoration topic. Putting things into a photogenic scene can help selling your idea way more. This doesn't even need high graphics, it's more about manifesting the atmosphere into a picture like you and photographer who creates the scene themselves. This is why I sometimes also include lighting work already in this very step, as it can set a mood. I think showing you every detail I choreographed would take away from your urge right now to explore this cell when it releases with Concord Stories, but you already have seen quite a few in this video thus far. Basically, I have the rule that nothing ever is perfectly aligned and sometimes left in a rush, so reconstructing observed scenes from the real world. Also, everybody is a bit different, meaning that when you place personal belongings down, a part of the magic comes down into thinking about different people and from their perspective. The cards on the gambling tables and the designated chip parts are a great example for that, as they're all uniquely aligned and placed to represent various characters. Oh, and obviously this cell also possesses my usual trademark of the yardstick. If you know, you know. Now, we do have a strong basis, but what we are missing is atmosphere. This is where lighting, effects, and sound effects come into play for our next step in the process. Now, usually casinos are quite bright and colorful and cheery to really make you feel happy and ecstatic, but we are still in the Fallout universe with a rather hideous story. I hence began experimenting right away at the start, as it was important to me to get that unique ambience I aimed for right. It may not be a priority in finishing the cell itself, but it was a personal touch I wanted to give. And so the first thought was the dark walls of the high-tech kit that would make it somber and depressing, adding a visible sky to the cell you can see through the windows that would neither be day nor night, but something unsettling in color. Using shutters, those shades are thrown menacingly into the cell with grainy light from the outside. Just overall, a very somber atmosphere that makes you slightly uncomfortable. To counter that, I made new custom lights within the cell that have some slight romantic red-orange tint to them, that would therefore be a little bit of a contradiction to the darkness I made so far, but lower their intensity and add more grain so you can literally feel the ciggy smoke particles in the air. Particles are a great keyword, as I added dense fog in some places like the bar, the gambling tables, the slot machine, so stationary places where one would sit for longer while smoking, and the classic cam-attached dust effects to round it up. Sound marker wise, I had to also make nuances from the pre-existing sound files for the Vaultic slot machines from the Vaultic Workshop DLC, so that there's always some sound of them no matter whether NPCs are using them or not. I then further sat down to actually compose and arrange some blues jazz music we could reuse for various cells of Concord Stories with similar feels and style. For a matter of fact, every song you heard in this video so far is something I made on my own with basic software. If you're interested in some free music for your projects, feel free to visit my SoundCloud. If you have an account there, you can download every track for free and reuse it in your videos, mods, live streams, or daily life, whatever. Let me also know if you think I should also upload them to YouTube. If you want to support my work, I also have a Ko-fi tipping page where you can help me out with my builds and keep content coming, which is the perfect changeover to the next point in which I have a huge surprise for everybody who has supported me during the month I was working on this very cell. Because, it was especially after my 3-month break where I couldn't make any money because my bank accounts were blocked due to the government thinking that I have passed, which comes down to a story that I was just hinting earlier at. And so you people came through and helped me out to keep a roof over my head. I may still have debts from 2024, that's just how it is, but I wanted to give you people a very special thanks. So let's go over to the point of NPC creation. I always do my best to also put the monthly supporters of my Ko-fi directly into the mods if applicable, but since I was facing an extremely dangerous situation, you helped me to remain mostly unscathed. I think it was just adequate to invest some more time and work in bringing every donator alive with an own unique NPC to this very cell. While so many of you, however, that I'm unsure if we'll be able to keep it that way, we may have to relocate some of you to other Concord Stories cells, and I apologize for that in advance in case that happens. But I hope you will understand that in the end, this is not my mod, and therefore I cannot make all the decisions solely by myself, and we also have to look on performance. However, the quest NPCs like Dima, Larry, the bodyguards, and Sir Arthur Thomas Blackwell are entirely fictional characters. Thanks to the tool of Face Ripper, I was able to just make the characters in the Fallout 4 character creation mode and put their mask onto the new designated NPCs. Now, after all of that done, we still have yet some work to do, which falls down on additional tiny details. The logo of the casino you have seen already, that I was able to use multiple times in the cell, and we also included a little battle arena as a sponsor board. That was a great asset to create for myself, as I then could also give the employees their own clothing of the retextured mobster outfit and the visors. Furthermore, I retextured the cigarette packs to be now card packs of the additional fictional brand Bombsicle that decorate some tables and therefore can be reused in other Concord Stories cells too. One item that must never be missed, obviously, is the yardstick, which fits greatly at the temporarily shut down exchange booth. If you're one of my regular Twitch viewers, you know the deal. I'm sure there's way more details that I forgot and I could talk about, but this may exceed the limits for now. You came here to also see the casino. We're not finished yet with the cell, let alone Concord Stories, so if you're interested to help out, I have some links in the description about the project below. For now, I would say, here is the early version of the high-stakes casino.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Going down. Going up. Oh.
Huh? Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh? Yes. Yeah? Huh?
Yeah?
Yeah? Huh? Yes. Yes. Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah? Yeah? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah?
Huh? Huh? Yeah? Huh?
Huh?
Huh? Yes.
Yes?
Yeah? Yeah?
You don't belong here. Get lost.